Today on Core Conversations, we have Claira Hermet. Claira is a personal development coach who focuses on self-care and self-love. We had a great conversation looking at the ways we need to forgive ourselves and how we really identify with ourselves. Things happen for us and not to us. Enjoy the conversation.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
So just for those who don't know you, can you just share your name, your business, and just go from there?
Yeah. So my name is Claira Hermet. I am a personal development coach and a television and radio presenter. So the television and radio presenting or hosting came first, and then the coaching has come in the last year, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And what brought you into the coaching side of it?
Because I lost my mum to breast cancer when I was 9, and then my sister died of breast cancer 8 years ago, I think it was. And after my mum dying when I was a child, I was always kind of very unhappy. I had depression, anxiety. I could never be consistent, incredibly low self-esteem and self-worth. And the things so me ended up in presenting, for example, completely happened by mistake. It wasn't like this conscious, I really want to do this, I'm going to go out and achieve it. So I felt like I wasn't in control of my life for a lot of my life. And so I just was kind of like this, I was at the mercy of circumstance, and I was at the mercy of what was happening around me and externally. And when my sister died, that was kind of like a real changing, a massive change for me. So my sister was my best friend. She got breast cancer when she was 25. She died when she was 31. I was 28. And at that point, my life was in a mess. Like, although externally some people might be like, oh, she's doing all right. Yeah, she's doing quite good. Yes. It was a mess. Like, the whole thing was a mess. And so when Emily passed away, I think I kind of said to myself, things have to change. Like, it has to be different. It can't go on like this. Like, what's the point of me being alive if I'm going to live my life like this? It doesn't work. And so, yeah, that's where kind of like this impetus for change came. And it's been a gradual, it was a gradual process. I read loads of books. I've been to various different seminars. And because they discovered my sister carried the BRCA1 gene mutation, I was tested for it. So I have that as well. So I had a preventive double mastectomy 5 years ago. So I had my breast removed and reconstructed.
Yes.
And that completely changed my relationship with myself. I think up until that point, I felt like I was my body, and my body was all I had to offer the world. Like, that was it. That was my value, my worth, my importance. And if I couldn't get it right, then no one was going to love me. No one was going to like me. I wasn't going to succeed. And I put like a lot of that value on my breasts, which I'd actually had a breast augmentation when I was 20. And so all of this kind of stuff about my value being something that didn't even belong to me, it was kind of a lot needed to. So I had this operation, and when I had the operation, I had 8 weeks off, and I'd never had 8 weeks of kind of being still and in one place. And
like by yourself, right? Like with
yourself.
Yes. And
when I went back to work, I was like, I don't know. And I was, at the time I was working for BBC Radio 1 Extra, I was working for BT Sport. I didn't know if I was like, what am I doing? What does this mean? What's the purpose of this? With coaching, I wanted to get myself to a certain place because I needed to know that it was possible for me to then be able to lead other people. Mm. So if that makes sense, because I think the thing with coaching is it's like a do with process. It's not a do to process. And the person that I'm coaching is always responsible for their own results. But yes, I needed them to listen to my story and know that it's possible to go from where I was to where I am now. And so, yeah, so that's why I launched my business maybe in February, so just before Corona started. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Well, that's exciting, and I love that because you present it in such a way like you've been doing this forever.
I've been talking forever. I'm a professional talker, I think.
Okay.
That's like my strong point. Well, there's this kind of misconception that when it comes to us as humans, that we get to do the work, and then at some point there's just going to be this like switch that's flicked, and suddenly that's it, it's the end. Like, we're there, we've reached this magical destination wherever it is, right?
Yes.
But then I think it's like that saying that says the more I learn, the less I know. It's like where is that point? When will you ever get there? Because as well, as humans, once we set ourselves this goal, we get to this goal, but by the time we get there, we've already got the next. So we're always constantly, and I think growth is a continuous thing. I think we come here to learn, to grow, to be challenged, to expand. And I don't think that ever stops. So it's this kind of misconception that we have that there's this destination that we're trying to get to, but the journey is the destination. Like we're always constantly growing and evolving. And so, yeah, I think that I tend to be quite transparent because I'm not trying to sell this destination to people. I'm not trying to say to people, there's this place you get to where, you know, external things don't affect you anymore, or there's this place you get to where everything magically becomes easy, or there's this place you get to where you don't have to do any work anymore. Like it doesn't, you know, it's the same with like with your physical body as well, right? Like your physical body, you don't just go to one like gym session or one Pilates session and suddenly it's fixed. You know, you have to keep up this continuous practice, right?
Yes.
And it gets better and better and better, but you keep up the continuous practice, and then maybe the moves you're doing get more advanced, or the weights you're lifting get heavier, or the distance you're running gets further, or the speed you do it at gets faster. Yes. And I think our spiritual body is exactly the same. You know, it's this constant commitment to self-improvement.
And your the Good Vibes TV and some of the things that you do on social media, like I love your content is so raw. Like, so I just love to hear how you came to these.
Yeah. I think it's because I felt trapped for a long time. I think it's that kind of like feeling like I needed to look a certain way or act a certain way. And I think there really is, like, being a female, sometimes you're like, oh, you know, like, don't be too sexy because people will think this, or don't be too much this, or people will think that, or this or that. And I've certainly felt that. So I think it's like, for me, everything that I want to do, I don't know why, but the ideas that I have in terms of content challenge all of that. And they're always a pushback against all of that. So I have a YouTube series as well called Naked Truth that I've done for years, which is like a vlog that I do naked. It's just shot from like here up.
Yes.
But even that, it's just like, I don't always want to be sexualized, or I don't want to be seen as like a sexual object. It's okay for me nudity doesn't have to be sexual. I think that's my main thing. And if I want to wear my pants and talk about something, to me, it feels quite fierce to do that. Like, it feels quite revolutionary. It feels quite powerful.
Yes.
And even the sense, like the Naked Truth I do without makeup. And it's just like, I don't want to have to always adhere to standards that I feel have been kind of like, pushed on me. I want to be able to break out of that. And so, yeah, that it's really important for me that I do things that pushes the boundaries of what's supposed, like, comfortable in society. Because for me, it feels like that's who I am.
Yes.
And that's what I like, you know, that's what I want to do. But I think I want to do it because society tells me that I shouldn't do it. It's like, no, you can't do that because you might be deemed as this, or you might be this, or you. And so for me, it's really about investigating like what's out here and like pushing those boundaries.
So what's the response been to it?
So it's always good. I mean, it depends what platform it's on, in terms of, I think, kind of how anonymous people feel. Yes. And it also depends what the subject matter is. But I feel like, yeah, in the past, for sure, I've let the opinions of other people kind of, you know, stop me from doing certain things or hold me back. Yeah. And I guess, like, even this morning with like Good Vibes TV, it's just like, I have been wanting to kind of show up and do something daily, and then I'm like, no, but I need to package it, and it needs to look like this, it needs to be like this, it needs to have this logo, it needs to have this, it needs to be professional, it needs to be all of these things. And it's like, sometimes you just need to show up. Like, sometimes you just need to show up and talk and let it do what it's going to do, and develop into whatever it develops into, as you've done obviously with Core Conversations. It's just like, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. But yeah, and Rants in My Pants, I guess, is the same. I haven't felt like doing it for the last couple of weeks. I've kind of felt like, because it's a little bit silly, that it wasn't, like, for me personally, the timing not right. But yeah, they're all, I guess, I think I did one of my Rants in the Pants about not being put in a box. And that's really important for me. It's like, I'm multifaceted, I'm multi-passionate. Sometimes I'm serious, sometimes I'm really silly, and incredibly immature and childish. Sometimes, you know, I'm impassioned. So it's kind of like, I don't want to have to just show up in one way. I don't want people, like, people will put me in a box, but I'm breaking out of it. I don't want to be in that box.
Great.
So I want to be able to express who I am. Otherwise, why am I here? Like, and I think for a long time I was trying to guess what other people wanted me to be.
Yes.
And do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. And to, real talk, what are the steps that you would give to a male or a female who want to kind of break out of these expectations that we place on ourselves and we think that people have imposed on ourselves, to just be free like that?
I would say that you just have to start. So you have to start somewhere. And I think if I look at my life and my career, I've always done things that are outside of my comfort zone. I've always done things that scare the absolute crap out of me. I've always done things that make me feel really uncomfortable, because I wanted to know what was on the other side. Like, I had this real interest of what's on the other side. Like, what is on the other side of this fear? What is on the other side? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? How will I act in that situation? And so I think you just have to be willing to try. And I think it's that understanding that the fear is worse than the thing. Like, it's the fear is always worse than the thing, right? So when we do the thing, very often we're like, oh, why was I even worried about that? What was it? You know? Yeah, it's kind of like we build it up. So I think in terms of steps, if you're someone who's kind of really like entrenched in that fear and this thing feels like a million miles away, the thing that's really helped me has been reading books. Because when I've read books about other people who have done and overcome things, then I'm like, if they can do it, I must be able to do it, right? We're both human. Like, okay, we're not exactly the same person, but we are human, right? So we have similarities. We have these things that are similar. So if they can step outside of themselves and do something that isn't necessarily natural to them, I can step out of myself and do something that doesn't feel natural to me. And yeah, I think sometimes we get to that point where you feel like you've just had enough, and that's when you take action. Like, when you've just had enough of feeling like, you should bite your tongue and you shouldn't tell the truth, or when you've just had enough of feeling like, you're not good enough, or whatever it is, that's when you go and you find the solution, whether it's a book or a video or working with a coach, or you have to take some kind of action. And if the action isn't doing that thing because that's not available to you right now, take an action that will get you closer to be able to doing that thing.
Yes. Yeah.
With body image, you've got to love yourself where you're at. I think this is with anything. You have to love yourself where you're at. And people will be like, oh, no, but it's impossible for me to love myself because I don't like the way I look. But what I had to do was, number one, I've got some videos on my YouTube about this. If anyone wants, like, there's one called How to Love Your Body Now, I think. But one, I had to realize my body is something that I've been gifted with. My body is my friend, my vehicle, my partner for life that is with me, but it's not me. It's this gift that I have, number one. And number two is the understanding that this body is the thing that allows me to do everything I want to do, from like hugging my dad to, like spending time with my friends, to going for a run, to sitting down and watching TV. Like, without my body, I cannot do life. Like, I have to have my body to do life.
Yes.
So I started to change my relationship with my body. So rather than looking at it as this thing that let me down because it didn't look like the picture that society had given me of the ideal body, I started to look at my body as my best friend. I started to look at my body as like this amazing gift that I've been given. And I think that happened like post me having the mastectomy. Mm-hmm. That started to happen. I was like, shit, I felt so sorry. I felt really like sad that I'd been so horrible to myself for so long.
Yes.
But then I started to, kind of tune into what I was saying to myself and the way that I was talking to myself. And here's the thing, yeah, if you're say you're overweight and you want to lose weight, right? You have to love yourself where you're at, because now imagine I say to you, oh, I want to go to the gym and I want to lose weight, and you say, okay, I'll help you. Okay, yeah, I'll help you. I'll come with you. And I go on the treadmill and you stand there next to me on the treadmill and you're going, look at that person over there. They look so much better than you. See that person over there. You're never going to look like that. I bet they're laughing at you. You're an embarrassment. I'm not going to stay on that treadmill for very long, and I'm not going to go back, right? If you stand there and you say to me, you're doing so great. Like, just keep your mind focused on your goal. Like, you're brilliant. Well done for showing up. I'm going to keep going back. So we have to be that to ourselves, because if we're trying to do something and the voice in our head is constantly punishing us and putting us down, we won't have the strength to be able to do it, to be able to get ourselves to the end. So we have to cultivate, like, I say, if you wouldn't say it to someone you love, why are you saying it to yourself? Stop yourself. And we have a thing, so I do NLP, we have a thing in NLP called pattern interrupt. So whenever you catch yourself doing that, you do something that changes your mood, that changes your thought, you focus on something different, you put on a certain song, you take yourself out of that space.
Yes.
And the more you do that, the more you break out of that pattern. But yeah, if you want your body to do something, you've got to love it. Otherwise, you're fighting a battle.
Well, Claire, you say that, and that speaks to like one of my frustrations. Like my background's in counseling, and I'm in fitness now, obviously. Yeah. But my thing, I always felt like when I was speaking to people who had low self-esteem, whether it's teenagers, females, males, whatever, my frustration, the thing that really broke my heart was when I said something, they didn't hear me. It's not that they didn't hear what I was saying, it's that they didn't believe the positive message I was giving them because they didn't believe it for themselves.
Yeah.
So the challenge...
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, so the challenge was then like, well, how do I make my voice louder than the voice in their head?
Yeah, so I would say to that, you can't. I think that that's what I would say. Yeah, I would say, like, the thing is, and this is what I think about, like, taking any kind of action, you have to want it for yourself. You have to want it for yourself. This is not, I cannot do it for you. Like, I can't do it for you. It's a choice, right? And the only choice that we have, the only control that we have is over what goes on inside our internal space. That's it. Out there, we got like nothing, I've got nothing. I can't stop the cars. I can't, tell the wind to stop or the sun to stop shining, or, like the horrible things that happen in the world. I can't control them. I can control my reaction to them, and I can control how I choose to think and feel about myself.
Right.
And so what happened with me is that I was the person probably that you were trying to counsel for a long time. So I had like eating disorders and stuff when I was from 15 to 25, like quite severely. And I would go to therapy and, and I would have these kind of conversations and I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd go back and do exactly the same thing. And I was constantly repeating my story. I was a victim. I was so attached to that story. I was attached to poor me. My mum died. I can't do this because of this, and it's me and me and me and my and me. And then after my sister kind of died, and I made this commitment to myself that I was going to change. I was interviewing an American artist. It turned out that his manager was also, as well as a manager, was also a qualified life coach. And he like pinned me down, not literally, that sounds wrong. He literally ripped every excuse that I had. He ripped it from me. Like every, thing that I said about that backed up my victim story. Yes. He just ripped it apart. And I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying. I was I was angry. I was defensive. I was annoyed. Like, it was kind of like, this is my story, that, this is how I perceive myself and how the world perceives me. Like, don't challenge it.
Because you're comfortable with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I woke up the next day and I was like, he's right. Everything he said was right. So either and this is the way I look at it now, is like, right, here's your two choices. One is you carry on the way you are. And like you say, I've had friends that are absolutely stunning and beautiful, and they'll say that they're not, and they're fat, and they're this, and they're that. And it's just like, I can't change that for you. That's it. So if you want to keep believing that, that's going to be your experience. And if you're happy with that, to kind of blame other people, to blame circumstances, that's okay. That's where you will get to exist. That's fine. You stay there. Or the other choice is, and this is your choice, is that you take responsibility for yourself, for your life, for everything, which is hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it puts you back in the seat of control. Mm-hmm. It puts you back in the driving seat of your life, and then you can change things. From there, you can make changes. That's your two choices. That's it. That's all you got.
Yeah. Right. And a yummy vegan said here, we It's, we become attached to our stories, like what you just said. That's exactly it. So then where does the concept of motivation fall into this equation?
Dun, 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 dun. Motivation is like, it's like that, what am I trying to think of? I think it's quite elusive, motivation, because, you know, I go through stages where I feel incredibly motivated, and I go through stages where I don't have any motivation at all, but I still have to do what I have to do, right? And I think the only way that I manage to cultivate motivation, something that we do quite a lot in coaching, is by making like my next level self. So by looking at the identity of the version of me who's already attained what I want to attain.
Okay.
And so working out, who is that person? Who is that person? And so for me, then, it's not motivation. It's about feeling into being that person. It's about experiencing the thoughts and feelings of that person. So it's spending so much time imagining it and getting so attached to it that I start to become it now, which allows me to up level, to create the life that I want to create now, to take the actions that I need to take now to create that life for myself. Whereas motivation, I feel like it kind of, like, for me, it wanes. And even I talk about like myself when it comes to fitness, because I'm a qualified personal trainer, and not that I haven't practiced as a personal trainer for a long time, but I was really into exercise. When my sister got ill, I started kind of dipping in and out of exercise, and that continued for well, where are we, like 10 years. So all of this time I was trying to have this regular exercise routine. I wanted to be committed, but instead I'd constantly yo-yo. So my weight would go up and down, my body size would change, my exercise, I'd maybe do exercise regularly for 2 or 3 months, then I wouldn't do it again for 6 weeks, and then I'd, you know, and it was constantly all over the place. And then since October, something changed, and since then, that's it. Like, it's set, and it's not, I don't have to try anymore. So I don't need motivation to do exercise. I now exercise whether I feel good, whether I feel bad, whether I feel anxious, whether I feel angry, upset, whatever. I exercise because it is who I am. It's part of my identity. It's who I am. And so I think this is what it's about. It's not about finding the motivation to do it, because motivation could wane, or, you know, or like for me, it'll be like, oh, my motivation is I'm going on vacation, and then the vacation's over, so no motivation anymore. So
so there's these I agree with you 100%, and this is you know, for the personal trainers and fitness professionals out there watching, this is the conversation that we have often, because you really can't motivate anybody. Like, we are cultivating something within them. We're trying to ignite something within them that has to come from the inside out if it's going to be lasting. Like, you know, like, there could be a wedding coming up and you're motivated to get into a dress, or there could be a vacation. You don't want to be that, you know, that overweight guy on the beach, but then those come and go. So how do we cultivate that internal change is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I think that is all to do with identity. It's all to do with how you identify yourself. Like, who is the version of you who exercises every day? Like, who is that version of you? So what do they think? What do they feel? What do they do with their day? How do they spend their time? Who do they surround themselves with? It's like you have to put yourself into the position of that person. How do they feel? Because for me, like, I'm a kinesthetic person, so everything for me is about feeling. So if I know how it feels to be that person, to, you know, to look in the mirror and feel good, to feel fit and healthy, to kind of have the stamina to run up and down stairs, to be able to use my body and utilize my body, I get connected to that feeling. I'm like, I want that feeling, I want that feeling. And then I start to bring it into my space now. It's like that idea of believing something before you see it. It's like becoming it before you have it. Because I think, you know, it's like, let's use exercise as an example, but you have this kind of, maybe this goal that you want, right? But the goal, to reach that goal realistically, even if you're in regular exercise and you're eating a healthy diet, it's going to take you 3 months to reach that goal. Yeah. Okay, cool. 3 months. But eating chocolate makes me feel good right now in this moment. Or sitting in front of the TV makes me feel good right now in this moment. So this is why the motivation thing doesn't necessarily work, because the attachment, it's easy for me to watch TV. It's easy for me to eat chocolate and to not go and do that thing, because I get that instant, you know, kind of pleasure, as it were. Yeah, instant gratification. So I have to really be attached to what's going to happen in 3 months. I have to already be the 3-month away version of me, so that other stuff doesn't matter. Right. That other stuff, that instant gratification, is nothing compared to how it's going to feel when I get there. So I have to really know it and have those feelings already, so that I can power myself to do the things that I need to do.
Yes.
And that's what changed for me. Like, what changed for me is I started to become, I was somebody who exercised regularly. That's it. I became a version of me that exercised regularly.
Yes. That's it. Like, yeah, playing the long game. And I say it to my clients too, if they've been on a good path and they've been exercising and they've been eating clean, they're doing all these different things, and then they came in one day and they have, they're beating themselves up because they've had one day where they had a birthday party and they ate too much cake or something. My message to them is like, that's okay. You are still the person that exercises, this is who you are now. What you did that one day isn't who you are. You are the person who's in these good habits. And this is this is who you are now, right? So I love that 3-month version of yourself, and playing that long game that's key.
Because then when you do those things, you feel confident in the fact that doesn't change everything. That's not a reason to give up or to not carry on or to, do whatever. It's just one of the, it's always like, it happens, it's life. And why shouldn't you be able to eat too much cake every now and again? Or, you're not feel like going to, like last week, I think I only trained 3 times because of like circumstance. I went and covered a couple of extra radio shows, and then I had my kitchen ripped out, so I wasn't able to do those kind of extra 3 days. Yes. And even then I had like a little moment where I was like, oh, and then I just thought, you know what, next week is fine, and today's Monday, my exercise is done, and but what we can do is allow our mind to pull us back to that old self, right? To that old self. And what does this mean? This means, but I think, when you become attached, and I eat chocolate a lot, so I mean, probably too much of it, but that doesn't stop me from doing exercise. It doesn't stop me from wanting to be strong and fit and healthy, or from knowing that that's who I am. Right. I just get on with it. Whereas in the past, it probably would have done. I'll be like, oh, well, I've messed up now. And because I was only doing it it wasn't me. It was something I was doing, as opposed to now it's part of who I am, not something that Claira's doing. It's who Claira is. Right. So that's the difference.
Totally. And I think the other part of that for myself is learning over the years to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And we get really good over time, because people hurt us enough. We get really good at forgiving others. So we've nailed that. But how do we forgive ourselves?
Yeah, and that is it's interesting. But I think I've got to the place now where I'm like, I think it's because I love myself. So I feel like when you love other people, you forgive them, right? You forgive them the things that they do, and you forgive them, I guess, because it feels good for you, and you don't want to carry that anger or that bitterness, or that. So I think when you love yourself, you understand that you're only human. You make mistakes, but tomorrow is another day. Like, we're not. And also you understand that you're in control. So like, I love myself. I understand I'm in control, and I can be quite firm with myself. So it's like, okay, if I know I'm avoiding something, how am I going to stop avoiding this? Or how am I going to get around this? So I'm holding myself accountable as well. So I think that's important when it comes to forgiveness. And just like the same kind of thing we were saying about the body. It's like the way that people perceive their bodies, or the way that we talk to ourselves. It's like just tuning in and listening to what you're saying to yourself.
Yes.
And sometimes what happens is, it's kind of that the ego keeps us trapped, because it's like, oh, now I'm saying, oh, I'm a really bad person because I'm saying negative things to me. So you're saying negative things to yourself, but then you're saying negative things to yourself about saying negative things to yourself.
Right.
So I kind of say it's about cultivating like a big sister, or like this kind of voice that steps in and says, no, no, stop. We're not doing that. Like, we're not having it. And there's loads of different self-love practices that I kind of advise people to do. And I think like even stuff like writing love letters to yourself, kind of appreciation, self-appreciation, because as well, we can have done this amazing thing, and we're so kind of trained and programmed that we'll pick up on the one thing that we did that we're not really pleased about, and we'll forget all the great stuff that we've done.
Exactly.
You know?
We all do that, and it sounds cheesy to say write a love letter to yourself. I mean, like, I can imagine saying to guys who write a love letter to yourself. They'll be like, no, like, but I can see how beneficial that would totally be. Yeah.
But I think this is where we've got a big problem, is this idea that certain things are cheesy or effeminate or woo-woo or, you know, weak. And this to me is a big problem, because I think that these things are the most important things. You know, these are the most important things. And yet we look at them, they've been framed as negative, like they've been framed as, you know, wishy-washy or not powerful, not strong. But there is nothing stronger or more powerful than loving yourself. Like, that's it. Like, when you love yourself, you're coming from a balanced, grounded, rooted place. You can help other people, you can serve, you can do all of this stuff. But we don't want to do it. We know, because it's weak, and someone might think this or someone might think that. The love letter's not like, oh, I think you're so beautiful. It's just, it's strong, it's powerful. It's like, you know, like I respect you, like I love you for all of the amazing stuff that you do for me, for carrying me through life, for making me consistent, for it's so important. And I think, like, especially for men, that kind of, that programming that you have, that there is this idea that these things are weak and these things are strong.
Don't ever be vulnerable.
Real dangerous,
right? That's so dangerous. That fear of vulnerability is a dangerous message that we tell ourselves as men. And there's such strength waiting for us if we can break through that. Yeah. And
I think if you don't, it manifests in some pretty not great ways, really. I grew up with my dad and my brother, essentially. That's my family after losing my mum and my sister. And, you know, my dad is he's an amazing man. He's funny, like, he's supportive, but he's never dealt with the fact that he lost his wife, and he's never dealt with the fact that he lost his daughter, like his first born child. And, you know, I can see what that does to him. But again, it's his choice. I can't make him do anything. And the way that he looks at it is that, no, that's there and I'm here. So no, you know, he feels like he can separate himself from it, which maybe he has. Maybe he's disassociated himself from it, but that will have an impact on him, you know? And I feel like, I don't know about you, but for me as a woman, once I get to a certain age, if I'm going to be in a relationship with someone, they have to be able to be emotionally available. They have to have that ability to be vulnerable. They have to be able to express themselves. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Right. Been there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, going through a divorce, like, you compartmentalize it by saying, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to feel this again. I'm never going to let this happen. And you put it in a box over here, put it on a shelf, and then you go through the rest of your life without actually addressing those hurts. And you figure that I could be strong and I don't have to address it. I'll be just fine. But those things come back and they bite you, because you find those same contexts or different contexts where you need to access those feelings and they're not available for you.
Yeah. It makes me think about Home Alone 2. And there's a scene in Home Alone 2 where Macaulay Culkin's with the crazy pigeon lady in in the roof of, like, the opera house or whatever it is, and she's saying that she had her heart broken, so now she never wants to love again. And he says it's like when he got roller skates for Christmas and he didn't want to get them dirty, so he kept them in the box. But then when he did go to put them on, they were too small for him and he couldn't use them anymore. And so I guess it's like, I always remember that and think about that. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that's a good analogy. It's like, what's the point of having it if you're not going to use it? And this is, we get taught about this kind of like fairy tale, especially when it comes to love. Like you find the one and then you fall in love and life is perfect and it's great and magical. But actually, the only way that I can make sense of life is that we come here to grow and expand and learn. So the things that happen are happening for us, not to us. Right. Even the bad stuff, even the horrible stuff, because it's the stuff that challenges us, that makes us dig really deep and find newfound strength, or you know, like that's where we really get work done, right? And
Right.
and I think that's it. So you're like, you have a heart, of course you're going to get hurt, but that's how you know you're alive. Like, what's the point?
Yes.
Otherwise, if you're not going to use it, if you're just going to put it in a box, you'll never get to experience the polarities, because on one side is this amazing love, and on the other side, yeah, there's hurt and pain, but you know, you can't have one without the other, you know. And I think this is it. Earth is or this planet is a place of polarities, right? There's light and dark, there's love and hate, like, so that we've got these things, and one, I don't know how one would exist without the other. Like, imagine if you came here and you know, and that's all there was love and happiness and joy.
Right.
What would it be? Boring? Because how would you know it was love and
you
happiness?
you wouldn't appreciate one for the other. It's like, you know, those songs that say, like, it's a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, okay, well, okay, those are cute lyrics, but the reality is it's true. Like, when you love so much, you get hurt, you hate so much, you swing between these pendulums, and then you have appreciation for one because you've experienced the other, whether it's, you know, whatever the polarity is that we're talking about. One brings an appreciation for the other.
But I bet you're like, you went through a separation, you went through a divorce. I bet now, from the position you're in now, that has made you a completely different person in a better way, right?
In a better way, absolutely, on so many levels. Like, the sense of you love harder because you notice you feel to have lost it, and then there's also, when you're circling back to the fear part, you have that much more confidence to love that hard, because the thing that you fear really isn't that bad. You survived it. So there's no fear of putting everything out there for fear of losing. Because if you've lost it and you survived, you're still here. Let's just go for it. Let's just go hard at it now, because we can just enjoy it and not fear first.
And I think it's, like, what's the worst that can happen? I know I can survive it. So I have, like, I literally have nothing to, you know, I have nothing to lose, essentially. But also, I think, I'm sure it's made you better at communication. I'm sure it's made you more honest. I'm sure it's made you more truthful, right? Like, if we're open to learn from these things that happen to us, we really get, like, bigger, like, in terms of not physically bigger, but we really get bigger.
Yes, exactly. Those hearts are from my wife there.
Hi.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You know, how are we doing? We have like 10 minutes left. We just flying through this time. I had this band I used to wear, and it said "Better Every Day." And you know, whether it's, you know, working out or challenging ourselves personally, I really felt that was my mantra as I was working and moving further away from these pain points in my life. Getting better every day was my thing to do. And one day that band broke. And I, like, almost cried because I broke a little rubber band I wore on my wrist. Because it was like, man, that message was so powerful. And there's these guys that I train, some older gentlemen. And I was telling them this story about this band I wear every day, and it broke. And one of the guys simply said to me, he was like, well, you're living that message now. You don't need an external reminder because it's on the inside now.
Yeah, it's done. You're done with it. That little guru that showed up to give you that message, no longer needed. So it's like, bye, I'm chipping off now. I'm gone. Yes. And I think sometimes that's the way with, you know, it could be people or experiences or whatever. Certain things show up because we need them. And when we no longer need them, they can go. Like, they're free to go, right? But that's right. Like a beautiful kind of analogy that it become, by, I guess, affirming it so much, it's become part of who you are. It's who you are. You just naturally get better every day. That's it. So you don't need the band. It's tattooed on your heart, I guess, really.
Yeah, absolutely. But isn't it funny how we don't feel like we're ready for that rubber band to break?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of like, it's like your safety blanket. It's like having that kind of little, but this is the thing. And when we're talking about, like, the Good Vibes TV, it's like, sometimes you're not ready, but you just have to jump. Like, and sometimes if we're not ready to jump, we get pushed. You know, and in the sense, it's like, you're not ready to do it without me. I'm going to have to go because you have to be able to do it without me. So the band's like, ping. And then you're like, and then it's like, no, look, okay, I can do it. Okay, I can do it. Like taking stabilizers off a bike, you know, like the kids will be like, look, some of them are like, yeah, I want to go for it. And others are like, no, I can't do it. And it's like, you can do it. You know, you have to believe that you can do it. And it's not coming from this magical, you know, band. It's coming from you. And so, yeah, sometimes if we don't take the leap, we get pushed.
Get that push.
For sure, yeah.
Um,
Sometimes we need it.
So, in closing, what will be your message for your people, for your audience right now, Claira, in terms of where you're at, and what do we want to just say to people as our all-encompassing message?
The biggest investment you can ever make is in yourself, and we're not taught that at all. We're taught the complete opposite. We're taught to try and fix everything externally, to focus all of our hopes and dreams externally, to just everything is like, when I can get this, when I can make this happen, when I can be with that person, when this is done, when that's done. And so we make everything like conditional. We make our happiness conditional on external sources. Yes. And I think what I know is that it's the other way around, like everything stems in here. So what we manage to do in here is what we experience externally, right? So
yes,
this is the most important place to do the work. This is the only place to do the work. And if you're not liking what you're experiencing externally, or, like what's being presented to you, you have to do work, the work inside, you have to do it. And that's the only way that things will change. And so that's why it's so important that you take care of yourself. That's why it's so important that you keep your own energy up, that you keep yourself grounded, that you do what you can do to look after yourself. But yeah, invest in yourself, whatever that means for you, whether it's books or therapy or exercise or food or whatever it is that's investing in you, do it, because that's what will change everything.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries, it's been an
that was
absolute
so
pleasure.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. I'm going to sign you off here, and I'll send you a message after, and I'll have the highlights for you later.
Thank you.
Hey, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason they all help us in this battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be life to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.